Good evening. I'd like to call a special board meeting for the Village of Cary for October 28th, 2025, a continuation from our village board meeting for October 21st, 2025, to order with roll call, please.
Collier,
Here.
Dudek,
Here.
McAlpine,
Here.
Persina,
Here.
Stefani,
Here.
Kaunick.
Here. And I will entertain a motion to allow trustee Rick Walworth to attend this meeting remotely due to a work commitment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome, Rick. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I asked Scott, or I emailed Scott that I needed to ask him a question before the meeting started.
I'm sorry, sir. The public comment is closed.
There is no public comment. This is a question directly to
There,
Scott.
we do not allow
Scott
that.
was procedurally correct to end public comment due to the late time of the last meeting. People were tired, some left. Since there wasn't a sign-in sheet, we don't know if some of those people who left wanted to talk and didn't get a chance. Not having a sign-in sheet last week and this week differs from past pattern practices. The mayor should have asked the committee last week if there was going to be a vote. No vote occurred. Since the last meeting, there has been new communication between the trustees and the petitioner, and the public has the right to know what that is. The communication is a violation of due process and may be a violation of the Open Meetings Act. Add in a new revelation that the ZPA audio and video was probably manipulated as it was taken down. Once it was put back up, it was no longer in the live recordings, and it is still not in YouTube. At a minimum, the public should be given the information exchanged between the trustees and the petitioner, and public comment reopened.
Ready? Good evening. Good evening to everyone. I will address your comment. I'm Scott Euler, village attorney. And I want to remind us of where we are in our process at this point. I recognize most of you from our last meeting that we continued, and I recognize most of you from the Plan Commission meeting that most of you attended. The Plan Commission meeting regarding this matter was the public hearing, a required process relative to this application, this development application. At the public hearing, you, the residents of the community, have the legal right to address the Plan Commission members with any information, any documentation, any testimony that you believe is relevant to this development. You did that in robust fashion, if I recall, at the Plan Commission meeting. There is no time limit to your discussion or testimony to the Plan Commission. You were given the opportunity, my recollection is, everybody was given the opportunity to share the information you had at that meeting until you were through. The Plan Commission then took a vote, made a recommendation that has come to this board for discussion and decision-making by this board. That recommendation is still in front of this board. At our last meeting, this board's meeting, the board spent 4 hours, 4.5 hours, receiving your comments again. There is no requirement for this board to take another 4.5 hours, which they were not uncomfortable with. You were here. The board was willing to listen for the entire time that everyone here wanted to make their comments. The rule that the board has established in the past for past meetings is that public comment is made up to a maximum of 30 minutes. Since you all joined us at the last meeting and you wanted to express your thoughts on this matter, the board took its time an extended period of time to let you, the members of the audience, share your thoughts for multiple hours. That meeting was continued. At least one of the trustees at our meeting at 11 o'clock or whatever it was determined that it would be difficult at that late hour to have a full, informed discussion process at the board level with all the information the board may need to complete its work on this matter. So the meeting was continued. There was a motion made at our last meeting, which was tabled and is still before the board, to adopt the recommendation that was made by the Plan Commission. The recommendation made by the Plan Commission was to approve the development proposal, and that development proposal included a one-way access. So that motion is still before the board, or is on the table before the board at this point. The motion was, or the meeting has been continued to today to allow the board to clear its heads. It's not 11:30. They're not being asked to do this at that late hour. And take up all the information the developer has presented to date, the Plan Commission has provided the board, and you, the residents, have taken the time to share with all the members of the board. So tonight, the board will be discussing the motion that is still in front of it, taking it off the table. As to whether or not, I know there is a deep distrust in the United States of America these days of government and all things related to government. The comments that were just made about some secret discussions since our last meeting and this meeting are not accurate. You heard, you members of the audience that were here at our last meeting, heard us wrap up our last meeting. The trustees were asked if they needed any further information from the developer for this evening's discussion, that they should share that information with the staff, which I think a couple trustees did do, and we will indicate exactly what that was, so that the developer would be prepared to provide any additional information the board might need to make its most informed decisions this evening. That's the process that's been followed. None of the members sitting up here, elected members of your village board or the mayor, have had any discussions with this development team between the last meeting and tonight's meeting. The information that has been shared comes from the development team to the staff, because the development team was asked to provide certain additional information. And we can share that information with you this evening. The development proposal has not changed. There's nothing new about it. There is some clarifying information, and as I understand it, there may be some positive minor changes to the plan. The developer can share that in a moment. With that said, unless I missed anything that anybody wants to mention, I will turn the meeting over to Community Development Director Brian Simmons to bring us up to date.
Thank you for that introduction. So from a standpoint of where the project is as of this evening, the developer did provide a response to questions that were provided by the village board. They have provided information. They'll have a presentation to go through what those changes are. And after that presentation, staff will be happy to go through and identify what has changed from the proposed conditions. Before you and the dais, there is a draft ordinance that marks in red text what the changes would be based on the plan revisions that are being proposed to the plan. But I'd be happy to give more detail on those as far as the extent of those modifications. But really, there's, I think, 3 conditions that were modified with the proposed changes as this evening. So with that, I'll invite the,
Brian, I think we should make it very clear from the outset that these are not, I wouldn't even call these revisions. These are adjustments to the plan. They are responsive to some of the comments made by the residents at our previous meetings to improve the plan. And some changes that I think the trustees asked about, the development team is indicating you're not changing, that you're not able to make those changes or willing to make them, and the proposal remains the same.
Good evening. My name is Tony DeRosa with Fiduciary Real Estate Development. Thank you again for the opportunity to be back before you this evening. We've been busy since last week's meeting. We heard some questions, some clarifications from this board of things. Thank you. Let me just get to the slide. Okay, so we've been busy working on trying to address questions and some comments that this board had shared with us. So I'm just going to walk you through these, and then I'll specifically address the questions that were shared with us by staff. First off, we were able to increase the commercial land from the 4.7 acres that you saw last week to the 5.9 acres. The 5.9 is consistent with what we presented to you back in December of 2024. We did this by three different ways. First, we expanded our central stormwater pond that's adjacent to our clubhouse. We removed the pickleball courts from this green space area in order to expand that existing pond. And then we also reduced the length of the south leg at the very south end of the private frontage road in order to accommodate more commercial and more stormwater in that area. We also increased setbacks for buildings along New Haven. Building G specifically, we increased our setback from 15 feet to 29 feet. Our setback there from the building to the edge of pavement is now 66 feet. Our setback from the east property line as a result of this did decrease from 164 to 147 feet as a result of this modification to the additional setback along New Haven. We still are in excess of the 40-foot code setback requirement for an east property line. Buildings A and B, which are on the north side of New Haven, we increased the setback from 15 feet to 20 feet, which is consistent with the recommendation from the ZPA. Our setback on those buildings from edge of pavement to the building is now 35 feet for building A and 37 feet for building B. Buildings C and D, there were no changes made to previous building setbacks along the south side of New Haven. We also increased setbacks for the buildings along the commercial frontage road. That would be buildings C, E, and P. Those setbacks have been increased from 24 feet to 32 feet. With that change, no setback variance is no longer being requested. These next two slides are a list of the questions and comments that we received from village staff, and I'll walk you through them. The first question, or there were several questions provided focusing on increasing the commercial development area with reconfiguring the current stormwater layout. The good news is we didn't need to make any changes other than what I shared with you previously, and our plan reflects the 5.9 acres of commercial as originally presented. The second question was, can building type or styles be modified, such as 3-story buildings, to make up for potential loss of units if the detention area was revised to maximize commercial frontage? Again, good news is we were able to make other adjustments to get back to the original acreage for the commercial, and we were able to preserve all 2-story buildings on the site, which we thought was important in terms of scale for the project and important to the neighbors. The next question was, what is Fiduciary's approach if the 15-foot setback variances are not approved? 15 feet is an objectively short distance between the road and residences, which could present safety issues. So first off, our setbacks have been increased in this new plan. And it's important to note that setbacks are measured between the building and the property line, not the edge of the pavement. So 15 feet is just to the right-of-way or property line. The distance between the buildings and the edge of pavement have been increased to a range of between 35 to 41 feet for all buildings. Our original plan that we shared with you back in December of '24 did not have any setback variance requests. It was as a result of the neighborhood feedback we received in April, where we originally had a stormwater pond located on the north side of New Haven. We were requested if we could move that stormwater pond to the east property line to create a larger buffer there. And as a result of all the modifications we made, we lost two buildings in the overall plan, and then relocated 2 buildings to the north side of New Haven. And that's why those exist today. The intersection connection between New Haven and 31, that intersection location is generally set with IDOT. So we're connecting that point on the west to a point on the east where it connects to the cul-de-sac. And that geometry is what is setting the depth of the area between New Haven and the north property line adjacent to Walmart. The fourth question was, what is the feasibility of adding pedestrian-activated flashing lights signals for crosswalk locations if an extension of New Haven is approved? We are open to that. That's more of a village staff issue, engineering, public works, but absolutely something we're open to. The next one, if a unidirectional connection is approved, is it possible to install a red light type camera that would automatically generate tickets for abusers of eastbound use? Is this something that can be enforced in this manner with a camera, or only police patrols? Again, this is more of under the purview of village. Are we open to it? Sure, if it makes sense, but really we will defer to village staff, police department, et cetera, on that. The next question we were asked was, what are the impacts on the development plan if the stormwater variance is not supported and a 72-hour drawdown time is maintained? How would this impact building count, both residential and commercial? So first off, I think it's important to reiterate, McHenry County was briefed on this matter by village staff, and McHenry County had no objection to the request. McHenry County is also exploring potentially modifying their own 72-hour drawdown requirement to increase it. There's other counties such as Lake and Will that do allow for longer drawdown times between 96 and 120 hours respectively. One unique attribute with this property is that our stormwater requirements are more than 2 times larger than what would be typical for this property due to existing depressional storage where water is currently being held on site, as well as the management of the off-site water that we are required by law to manage. Maintaining a 72-hour drawdown would require significantly more stormwater storage area. Approximately 3 to 4 acres of development land would be lost and be set aside for additional stormwater management areas if we needed to comply. The next question was, in fiduciary's opinion, could a connection point with Walmart have any impact on IDOT's determination of a traffic signal warrant? And the short answer is no. The absence of a Walmart connection does not affect IDOT's signal warrant determination. Walmart has actually formally told us that they are not interested in making a connection. There is no legal cross-access that exists, and they will not entertain one. Even if one did exist, the redistribution of traffic of people cutting through along the frontage road and vice versa would be generally considered to be a neutral change and would not impact that warrant consideration. The current plan avoids those issues, as we heard loud and clear that there was not a desire to connect to the Walmart frontage road, even if that was possible. And lastly, we were asked if a roadway connection is not approved, how would the lack of this connection affect the commercial frontage proposed or the overall site plan in general? Would any modifications to the overall plan be necessary without the connection? So I offer you a few thoughts on that. The overall site plan would not change, but the lack of connection would substantially reduce the marketability of the retail land. Without the westbound connection, the project would not meet IDOT warrants for a traffic signal. If it's the goal of the village to create the potential for dynamic new retail, then maintaining a westbound connection is critical to that. With a signalized connection, the project will attract stronger users. It will support higher investment. It will enhance long-term property value and increase sales tax potential. We were specifically asked to come up with a list or examples of If you have a better connection versus a limited connection, what types of users could you get in each scenario? So with a potential for a signalized connection, you look at QSRs, which are known as a quick service restaurant. National users such as a Chick-fil-A, Panera, Chipotle, Dunkin' Donuts, for example, come to mind. Full service restaurants, Olive Garden, Cooper's Hawk, more of the national name brands that you'd be familiar with. A traffic signal would be important to those types of users. Without it, the caliber of users that would be attracted here, it's a smaller pool. You'll attract smaller operators that make it more difficult to support new construction rent levels. Without naming names, because generally they become more local in nature, I describe it more as categories that become more likely with not an ideal access. So we think about more service type users, a daycare, medical office, a veterinary clinic, small commercial office, dry cleaners, more kind of real local neighborhood type retail. At the end of the day, it's hard to say, or you can't have great commercial and no connection allowing westbound traffic. These are two mutually exclusive items that are difficult to exist together. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Board have any follow-up questions for the developer?
Thank you for pulling those answers together over the last week.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it was important that we have some of these things addressed. I know that we had those questions as a board, and it gives the opportunity for you to kind of tighten up some of those variances and also increase that retail. I think we wanted the bigger retail on 31, so I appreciate you making those changes.
No?
Okay.
I got a quick question. So can you explain to me what would make this commercial side different than north of you, Walmart? Because I look at the restaurants or people that are leasing out there currently, right in front of Walmart, there is no Chick-fil-A, there's a stoplight. There is no Olive Garden, there's a stoplight. So what is making you guys different, whether you have that stoplight or not?
Right, no, that's a good question. So, and I'm not saying because you have a stoplight, you will get Chick-fil-A. Like, that is not what I'm trying to say or commit to. What I'm trying to say is when you have an ability to stop traffic in front of you, in front of a site, national retailers look at that as a critical factor of how they do site selection. When you don't have the ability to stop traffic in front of a site, the national retailers typically pass over because their customers, it's that much more difficult for their customers to get to you.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my original question. The only one that I actually see in there is Starbucks. Everything else is mop off, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe a GameStop or two. A bank.
And we still may attract those. There's no question about it.
Anybody else? Do you want to go into the... Trustee Walworth, do you have any questions?
Not at the moment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
The traffic.
All right, I'll start this. Thank you, Mayor. So from what we understood from the previous meeting, there was desire, based on the public comment and the village board comments, to have some additional information presented on the potential options and the types of traffic calming that could be considered in terms of what was relayed in the condition in the packet. So the condition, I believe, was number 13, sorry, the number's escaping me. But the condition basically outlined that the final design of the extension of New Haven Drive and any related traffic calming measures on the existing roadway should be reviewed and approved by the village prior to the issuance of a building permit. So what we're showing here right now are potential options that could be considered at that stage should a connection for the roadway be approved for the project. So some of the traffic calming measures in terms of the standards in the industry that are out there, we'll show some of them here. There's two categories of traffic calming in general. The first category being non-infrastructure options, things like pavement markings, signage, and other more easily implemented items that don't require heavy construction. So in here you can see one suggested means of calming traffic is something we've implemented on other roadways in town, and other municipalities have done the same, and that is with lane narrowing and delineating the through lanes with narrower 10 to 12-foot lanes, and then delineating the parking instead of having the two unmarked wide lanes that currently exist on New Haven. Other options are speed radar signs, one of which is already currently installed on the north end of the subdivision. Truck restrictions, which if implemented, it would be prudent to likely sign the restrictions to be able to enforce off of the requirements that no heavy trucks through trucks be allowed except for legally authorized deliveries. And other concepts signage-wise could be trailblazer signage. So again, reinforcing some of the desired routes, especially from the existing industrial park on Industrial Drive, reinforcing to those less familiar drivers, for instance, coming from deliveries and for deliveries, of how to get back to Route 31. And then finally, another option that could be considered would require some more significant discussion, but there is the concept of park zone speed limits, which is similar to a school zone speed limit, but they are only applied and applicable when children are present. I believe it's within 50 feet of the roadway at that moment. So they're a little bit different to enforce, and the police department and Chief Finland can go more into that if you'd like, but that is another tool in our toolbox, so to speak, that could be out there. And then shifting to infrastructure-based traffic calming options. There are several out there. The traffic study did mention some of these, and what I've shown here are some other options that at a staff level we think could be some strong contenders to be considered for this particular application. Things like roundabouts or lateral shifts, where you are deflecting the direction and movement of traffic, could be applied at the existing cul-de-sac bulb at the end of New Haven Drive currently. Things like choke points, which would narrow the width of the roadway at specific points and specific locations for the purpose of reducing crosswalk distances for pedestrian safety, but also then making it less comfortable for traffic, especially when passing by opposing traffic in the other direction as they're closer together in narrow lanes to feel less comfortable at speed. Curb extensions at the intersections themselves would do the same concept, but not necessarily with a crosswalk. Raised crosswalks are another option that's out there as well, similar to a standard crosswalk, but you're deflecting cars instead of horizontally, vertically, reaching the same elevation of the crosswalk with the adjacent sidewalks. And then another option could be a chicane, which essentially is having the vehicles travel in maneuvering in two different directions at a single small isolated location. Again, not encouraging higher speeds because of the turning movements that would be involved. And we'll show some more larger examples of these in a second here. So this is just blowing up that same image with those examples pointing to potential locations where they could be potentially applied. So again, a roundabout or more of a simple lateral deflection island at the bottom of that bulb could be considered at the end of New Haven. At the existing playground on New Haven, the crosswalk length could be shortened with some with a choke point and some islands, and of course a lane narrowing through the whole corridor. The other half north is now turned to the right, so it would fit in the slide. The park trail crossing over by the pond that leads into Hoffman Park and toward Cary Lake, that, in our opinion, is a more higher pedestrian generator and could warrant the more major traffic calming measure like the raised crosswalk and a pedestrian beacon that was kind of mentioned in the trustee questions and that Mr. Farrell mentioned, that, in our opinion, would be a good candidate location for that particular treatment. Again, a park zone could possibly be considered at that spot as well. Speed radar signs, the curb extensions at two of the locations in the middle of that section. Those are a little bit harder to apply here, but there are a couple locations where they could fit. And I only say they're harder to apply is just because there are so many wide driveways and mailbox clusters located on New Haven. So there's only certain locations where we want to make sure that we could apply those and not interfere with the maneuverability for those driveways or the mailboxes. But the two locations I showed there are two possible spots. And then in the curve at that first curve, if you're coming in New Haven into the subdivision, that could be a potential location for the chicane. And the reason that could be applied there is because if the lane narrowing was applied, you would have parking on one side of the roadway, and you would put the parking on the side where the most parking exists. So it'd be opposite the very closely spaced driveways from the townhomes. So that parking lane would exist, obviously ideally to maximize parking on the westbound or the north side of New Haven for that north stretch, but then it switches to the eastbound or the east side of the road as you go around the curve. So that's where that lane shift in the chicane could be logically implemented. Again, showing these are more back of the napkin concepts, so they're not designed in exact detail, but they are relatively to scale. So the exact configuration could vary, but this just shows how you could implement that kind of zigzag maneuver in the chicane in that curve. This shows how the lane narrowing could work with, instead of two very wide lanes, you would have two narrower lanes with the parking on one side, and then the curb extensions at key locations, and you could implement a crosswalk with those as well. That same raised crosswalk concept we mentioned at the trail crossing. The choke point at the other park, just narrowing the length of the crosswalk there. And lastly, the roundabout concept. So again, these are just concepts, the things and details that could be and would be worked out between the village staff, our consultants, and the petitioner if the desire for traffic calming measures with a connection for a roadway is approved. And I can answer any questions you might have.
Board have any questions on this?
Yeah, I do. I think it's extremely important that is part of whatever we do is to ensure that this type of traffic calming measures will be implemented. Not questionable. It has to be part of it. With options to make amendments as we go on further, whatever's going on with whatever we come up with as a decision. But I think that first of all, if there's that many parks over there, I think we should have things like this. Period. I just do. I think that some of the things when you go across Three Oaks and, down by Crest, you press the button and it flashes and people can cross easy. You have it same on Silver Lake Road. I think that would behoove us to do some of these, implement some of these traffic calming measures no matter what.
You stole my thunder, but I was literally going to say the same exact thing. Either way, whether it passes or not, I think that it's something that we definitely need to discuss because I think from everyone that we've heard from, speeding is an issue. So if it is, then I think we need to address it. So,
David?
No further questions from me on this topic.
Trustee Dudek? Trustee Collier? Okay.
thanks for putting that together.
Trustee Walworth, any questions on this?
No questions, Mayor. Just a comment that I think all the non-infrastructure type traffic calming measures are critical to the success of any type of through roadway, and we should then do cost analysis and benefit analysis of potential infrastructure ones. But I agree with Trustee McAlpine, but I think this has to be an integral part of any plan moving forward.
Is there any other further discussion?
It's not a discussion. It's a comment I think I want to make for the public. So at the end, as Attorney Euler suggested earlier, at the end of the meeting last time, we were asked to provide feedback to village staff. I did provide feedback on the items. I can give you the specific numbers, but I think most of you, if you were here last time, remember the items that I mentioned. I did not have, and as far as I know, none of my colleagues on the board had any connection to the developer in the last week. I did have feedback through village staff of the comments that I had made, but no direct commentary by with the developer. I would tell you that what was covered earlier today relative to each one of the individual items that I had asked about was what. That's what I asked for, that's what was done. So developer came back with setback changes. I'm not going to go through them again. You heard him at the very beginning when Mr. DeRosa covered those. But every one of the things that he covered the early part of the meeting were pieces that I had asked him about, and I believe some of my fellow trustees did as well. So just to be clear, speaking just for myself, no contact, offered up 6 or 7 different bullet-pointed items, every one of which was addressed with his overview earlier today. So just for the public's knowledge, that's how it went between the back and forth. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. There was definitely no contact with the developer.
Okay. From the meeting of October 21st, there was a motion on the table. Do I have a motion to bring it back to the table? Thank you.
I move to amend the motion regarding the ordinance granting.
Hold on. Wait.
Oh.
Roll call, please.
Walrath,
Bring it back.
Yes.
Collier,
Yes.
Stefani,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Persina,
Yes.
Dudek.
Yes.
Thank you.
Could we repeat what that was for?
You just explain to the public what that motion was.
At the end of last meeting, when we continued the meeting, there was a motion that had already been made to approve the recommendation of the Plan Commission. That motion was seconded, so as part of the continuation of the meeting, the motion was placed on the table. It was tabled until today. Now it is back active for consideration by the board.
Now we can move forward.
All right. I move to amend the motion regarding the ordinance granting approval of the comprehensive plan amendment, zoning map amendment, final plot of subdivision, stormwater management variance, and plan development for Seasons of Cary PUD by replacing condition number 3 to read, New Haven shall be a bidirectional connection of two-way traffic from the existing cul-de-sac located adjacent to the property line to the easternmost entrance of Seasons of Cary development. The final design of the connection, including any signage to be installed, shall be reviewed and approved by the village engineer prior to the issuance of building permit.
I say, okay.
Second?
I second. I mean, do I have to second? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes.
I apologize.
No,
I want to know
you're-
procedurally what I'm supposed to say.
So there is a motion to amend.
Yes.
You are now asked whether or not you would agree to the amendment
agree.
to your motion. Trustee Savani, I believe you seconded the motion. Do you agree to the amendment? Yes. Okay, we need a vote on that motion.
Roll call, please.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Collier,
Yes.
Dudek,
Yes.
Walrath, Walrath,
Yes. Yes.
Persina, Stefani.
Yes.
Thank you. Now we can have the discussion.
Right, so again, just to be clear, the motion that is now before the board is the amended motion just made by trustee Collier, with the one change being relative to the direction of traffic, the bidirectional connection. Okay? So it is open for discussion on that motion.
Can I ask a question? This
Absolutely.
to the developer.
Yes, yes, you may.
So, modifications that you guys ended up sending back. My question is, for building G, you did a setback even further.
Correct.
Why did you guys do that?
So I think that was one of the questions that Trustee Dudek had asked about that corner. It was the northwest corner of Building G. I believe the setback last week on that building was 14 feet, and we were able to kind of repivot that building ever so slightly to increase it to be 29 feet. So to pull it further back from the right-of-way.
Rick, do you remember why you asked that?
For multiple reasons: aesthetics, safety, more in conformance with our existing ordinances. Safety being the big one, because I felt that it was too close to the roadway. And just the angle was, I don't know, to me it seemed like it was a accident area waiting to happen. I just didn't like the way it curved.
Got it. Thank you. So I want to piggy tail off that. If you did a two-way road in there, not bidirectional, which we're now discussing, what's the setback then going to end up being? Are you back at 14?
Good question. So the setback would still be to the property line regardless of which direction, how many lanes are in that area. The setback would be 29 feet to the property line. In the exhibit that you can see here for building G, the setback is shown in the northwest corner of the building at 29 feet to the property line, and what they're showing to the setback to the curb line is 66 feet. So the setback, if the roadway is designed for two-way traffic, would still be set back over 29 feet to the direction of travel.
Okay, so you'd be from 14 to 29, in theory, if you went two.
Correct. Yeah, it would be over 30 feet, essentially 29 feet to the property line, then there'd be a parkway of approximately 7 feet, so you'd have about 37 feet, 35 feet at least to the nearest lane of travel.
I have a question. So at what point in this process will it be determined what the traffic safety and calming measures would be? And by who?
The condition of approval would be that the traffic calming measures would be determined prior to the issuance of a building permit for the development. So that would be something that we would bring back through discussions with the developer, back before the village board for discussion at a committee of whole for determination of what would be appropriate to implement. And prior to the community development department issuing the permits for the site, we would have that discussion to determine what would be installed in the area.
And there would be full public comment, again, for that meeting at committee of the whole, correct?
Yes, correct.
And to piggyback on that, that would give us engineering background of where exactly things would fit and what would be the best use of the traffic calming measures for that particular area?
Correct. It would give us more time to determine what measures to implement and then review existing conditions in the field to determine the best locations for those calming measures.
Which is critical because obviously without having detailed survey and field locations of things like drainage inlets or subsurface utilities, some of the concepts that I presented might look great in 2D and on paper at this stage, but you get in and see what's there, and last thing you'd want to do is cover up a storm sewer inlet with a raised crosswalk and cause icing and flooding and things like that. So those are details which is why it's appropriate and best to work out some of the additional details at engineering ahead of permits, and then know where we really stand with regards to what measures we can do and can't do.
Thank you.
I do have a question. It's more a matter of, can you explain to the board and to the public, the staff has recommended the two-way traffic there, and I'd like you to just kind of go over what your qualifications are. I know we've had outside studies done, but they've been reviewed by both you Brian, and we've had our outside contractor review those studies as well. So I would love for you to just give us some background on what your qualifications are to review that. I think that's important for the public to know.
Certainly, and from the staff perspective, we're indicating that the two-way traffic is a best practice from a transportation and urban planning perspective. So that's very likely why that very concept has been present in our comp plan and in the updates and the sub-area plan that was conducted in the Route 31 corridor. For me personally, while I'm the village administrator, I am formerly a city engineer and village engineer. I've been a licensed professional engineer in the state of Illinois since longer than I care to admit, more than 20 years, 25 years. I'm also a certified professional traffic operations engineer as well, going on many, many years in that background as well. And then Brian can speak for his.
Yeah, just from my personal background, obviously my degree is in community regional planning with an emphasis on transportation planning. So when I first started my career was performing traffic studies for intersection analysis, warrant analysis, have been reviewing traffic studies for development projects my entire career as well from a development perspective.
And then we utilize our on-call engineers and consultants who are also selected on a qualifications-based selection process. So we do have certain consultants that we, in our pool of, in our bench of talent, that if there's certain projects that lend into their particular strengths and background, we will leverage that. The consultants that we use to review the traffic study for this development also have licensed professional engineers and certified professional traffic engineers on staff that were involved with this work. And then the same would go through the permit process. The Community Development Department utilizes consultants to assist us in the plan reviews and site engineering reviews for bigger complex projects. So that is a combination of staff work and our consultants who are also held to similarly high, if not higher, professional standards.
And you do continuing education. Didn't you just go down last week to U of I for that?
Yes, just like with any licensure, whether it's a medical doctor or a civil engineer or a traffic engineer, we do participate in the required professional development hours. I personally, for my engineering license, have to get at least 15 hours per year, and our traffic operations certification requires 45 hours of continuing ed every renewal cycle.
Thank you. I just wanted that to get out there. When I say things like I listen to the professionals, that I'm not a professional, I'm not a traffic planner, I'm not a civil engineer. I just wanted people to know that when I say that there's why I come up with that, why I'm saying that.
Which leads me to my next question. So if this passes, moves along, puts in the safety measures, and we get to a point and safety measures aren't working, are we able to revote this and change this and close this road?
We've talked about having that as part of that we're going to
So
do
there
a
needs to be
traffic count,
contingency
right?
plan. What if it's too much?
Right,
What if the study's wrong?
correct. I mean, didn't we say we could put something into the ordinance that we were going to make it mandated that after the first phase, we do a traffic count, see how things were going. After the second phase, we do that. Therefore, we could do either more traffic mitigation or go to one way or close it out. I mean, at some point, you can close a road if something wasn't working, correct?
I'm recalling from the previous meeting, we had the conversation and that question came up. And like any public road that exists currently, whether it's First Street on the east side of town or Crystal Lake Road on the north side, if we have traffic conditions or issues that are brought to our attention, we can analyze those. So roadways can be looked at, whether it's part of a development or just part of our collection of roads in our jurisdiction. So that being said, yeah, if there's an issue or a concern with the way traffic is operating or behaving, we can relook at that on any roadway at any time. And if changes need to be made, whether it's with a traffic calming measure or other reconfigurations, again, not specific to this particular case, but any roadway, that's something we can look at with staff and our consultants. And we have actually studied this road because of observations and requests from the public. So that's something that, a good example of something not driven by development petition at hand, just by virtue of observations by the public or by staff.
Attorney Euler has a comment.
Well, I would read out what the village administrator just said, that the streets are subject to the jurisdiction and decision-making of the village. That would be a serious consideration to close off this road after opening it up, after the development is in. But the ultimate decision regarding the opening of a road or the closure of a road rests with the village board. So,
Thank you for that clarification. Anybody from this side? Trustee Dudek?
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. DeRosa. So I do think the site plan looks significantly better than when first proposed. Do you have an idea of approximately how many square feet of retail commercial you had in the last iteration and now what you have with this change, approximately?
Yeah, I think previously we were about 30 to 32,000 schematically shown, and what we added is about a 8 to 9,000 square foot. So it puts us at approximately 40,000 square feet total.
So would that be the equivalent of what, like Jewel? I'm just trying to get a comparison for the, I don't know how big Jewel is.
I would think that any of the retail outlets that are along Route 31 would be like where GameStop is, Verizon store, those would be, that's kind of in line of what this looks like. And then the larger ones would be more of like the larger fast casual restaurants that we've been looking for.
For example, the
Yeah.
the building on the south commercial parcel,
Yeah.
the northern building on the south commercial, is the footprint of a Cooper's Hawk restaurant.
Oh, it's that big?
Yeah, Cooper's Hawk builds about a 10,000 square foot.
Okay.
We're doing a project with them currently, and that's why we put their footprint here.
Okay, so I think the new one that you added on the south side, given that it backs up to, open space, might be very desirable for a restaurant property. So
Correct.
that looks like it's 20% plus additional square footage, so thank
That's
you
a good
for that.
approximation.
Thank you.
Any other comments from here? Trustee Presina, any comments?
I don't
Questions?
have any other comments at this time.
Trustee Walrath?
I appreciate the developer addressing the concerns that I sent to staff. They were addressed in his presentation. I also appreciate them getting down to where there's minimal variances, eliminating some with the setbacks as we want to be applicable to our ordinances. So I'm content with what the address they made for us.
Thank you. There's no other comments or questions, discussion by the board? Let me reiterate what the motion on the table is right now, is to approve an ordinance granting approval of a comprehensive plan amendment, zoning map amendment, final plat of subdivision, stormwater management variance, and a planned development for seasons at Cary PUD with the change of the accessibility to bilateral two-way traffic. That is what is on the table right now. Any other questions? Sure.
I want to make one more comment. I just kind of jotted some things down here. And first of all, I want to thank everyone that's come out to all the various meetings on this issue, whether it be the open houses, whether it's been the ZPA, or whether it's been here to us. We appreciate you talking about your thoughts, your concerns, and your engagement in this process. I think that's extremely important, and I commend everyone for doing that. I just want to say that what I've heard over and over again is the request that we listen to you and that we have an open mind. We've been told that we made a decision already that just wasn't true. I can tell you I've taken 5 pages of notes just from the last meeting. I would respectfully, though, ask the same of you. And that means that you have an open mind and you listen and realize that we care about everyone. I've lived here for almost 40 years. I've raised 5 children. Safety is number one to me. So it is. Pardon me? Well, it's not a question of that. It's a question of it's not in. Guys, I didn't interrupt one of you when everyone spoke. All I'm asking is for the same respect in return. So this is not an easy task, nor are we taking this responsibility lightly. What I've heard over and over again is that the safety issue is for children, residents, children as well as individuals with special needs children. I've also heard numerous times that we are in this position due to a previous mayor many years ago that has since retired, that he did not loan extension on a road, and it put us in this position. I've also heard that the new residents will not engage nor shop in Cary and therefore should not be considered. I understand and I hear your concerns, and we are tasked with deciding a few things. Do we want this subdivision with commercial retail access on Route 31 that we've been looking for over 30 years since I've been here? Do we think that there should be a connection between the Seasons Development and New Haven? And if we have a connection, how should it be? So, as I mentioned earlier, the reason I asked for people to talk about what their expertise is because that's what I rely on. I rely on someone that's an expert in a field that I'm not. If I'm not an expert on traffic, I want to go to our staff. I want to go to the traffic engineers. I want to go to our outside consultants to come in and look at this to make sure what are the impacts that it could be. If we didn't care, if we were not listening, the studies right now say we don't need to do anything. Doesn't look like there should be anything more than 300 more cars per day. I'm not saying that that's correct. I'm saying that's what the study says. Those are the facts that we have. If we didn't care, we could go, yeah, we're just going to prove this, we're done. But there's no one here that's not said, hey, we need mitigation issues now. We want to be proactive, not reactive. We want to have some of these things addressed and go with it so that we're doing everything as proactively and as safely as possible for our residents. That's really what I wanted to kind of just say to you, that again, thank everyone and realize that we are not taking this task lightly, and we are looking at what's the best use. If we're going to have a development, how do we make it as successful as possible for everyone? And again, I don't want to be 20 years down the road and someone complain that we didn't do our job. We kicked the can like this previous mayor did. I've heard over and over, we should have had the Walmart, we should have had the Holiday Inn. I can't disagree with those things. I wasn't in this position at that point. But I think sometimes we have to make long-term decisions, and that's how I'm viewing this. So I just wanted to share that instead of just giving some quick answer, giving you a context to what my thoughts are.
Thank you, Trustee McAlpine. Any other comments?
Just one real fast. We're voting on all this together. So we're not piecemealing it. It's, hey, they're going to develop, or no, they're not going to develop, correct? With the road, without the road.
Correct. No other comments? Roll call, please.
Walrath,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Stefani,
No.
Dudek,
Yes.
Persina,
Yes.
Collier.
Yes.
That passed 5-1, Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to kind of give a little bit of a summary here. As Trustee McAlpine said, we have listened to everything. We've answered almost every single email I've gotten. Okay, thank you. Classy. All right, move on to village staff updates. Anything? Chief Finland? Director Noonan?
No report.
City Administrator?
No, sir.
Okay. Any future agenda items and discussion by the village board?
I know we talked about we were going to do something with e-bikes and scooters.
That's
Can we
coming
get
up.
that on the committee of the whole soon, because there's a lot of concern about that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll just add to that the police department and I are working on some additional research, and we have some actual outreach that's going on right now with our other sister agencies. So I have a meeting on Friday for that with that group, and then once we kind of collect the information there and finish up our research, we plan to have a committee discussion. The 2nd November meeting is our target.
Thank you.
I think nothing else, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 6:59.